buddies, we're back talking about some more of the boys on the channel with the 5th episode. Pretty wild episode all around, but we also had a lot of insanity last week, especially at the tail end with Soldier Boy finally being let loose, and he also took out Kimiko in the process. It looked like her healing powers weren't working, which is pretty bad because it, looked like she was dying. Thankfully though, Kimiko is alive. They did get her stable, but it comes with its own other set of problems due to the fact that it seems like her powers are just completely gone. She's not powered whatsoever, and it's intriguing that Soldier Boy's powers, his abilities, to some degree at least, can take away other Soup's powers in the process. We've already seen quite a bit of friction among the members this season, and as the episodes progress, we do continue to see that amplify, whether it be the fact that Kimiko almost died, and the big reveal to the rest of the team that Butcher is using temporary Compound V to have superpowers, and Huey stole that stuff to become superpowered as well, and they're not a big fan of it, as you can imagine, because it does seem a bit hypocritical in nature, because their whole point is to eradicate the Soups, and they're using superpowers. I don't know about you guys, but I was pretty bummed last episode when Stan Edgar got forced out of Vought, but we do have a new CEO at Vought, and it's actually Ashley, and we can see in these board meetings that it's going to kind of be a rough go at it. Basically just doing a massive overhaul of the entire staff. We see people being appointed that shouldn't be appointed to new positions, like the Deep being the head of the Crime Analytics Division, which feels awfully ironic due to his past. While it was awesome to see Huey gain superpowers temporarily in the last episode, I was a bit nervous how the rest of the team would react. Obviously, the boys themselves weren't all that happy because he did do it behind their back, but Annie was the big one that I was nervous about because, she is a Soup, and I imagine she would not be a big fan of it, and she isn't, but I guess you could say there was a silver lining in it to the fact that they ran out of the temporary V because they didn't have much left of it, or so we thought. As Maeve does later come by Butcher's and gives him more temporary Compound V, you can see as the episodes progress, Butcher is becoming more addicted to the feeling of being a superhero, and I think the biggest shocking thing out of this entire segment was the whole sex scene, if you will, between Butcher and Maeve. Not something that I was expecting. I kind of didn't think their relationship would go that path, physical, romantic, whatever you want to call it. It just felt kind of odd. Like, I'm not against it per se, but it just came out of left field to me. While it's awesome seeing Butcher and Huey run around using superpowers, it's disappointing at the same time that we kind of have that trade-off here with Kimiko losing her powers. And I suppose it is kind of a nice trade-off here, having her develop in other different ways outside of just brutalizing people every week in this big old song and dance number. It was a bit random to have that musical number in the episode, but what do you expect from the boys? Ended up obviously not being real, it was imaginary, but the kiss between her and Frenchie was not imaginary. So that was a big win for anybody hoping that they potentially got together, although that moment is very short-lived due to the fact that he gets snatched up at the hospital. There's a lot of people getting snatched up in this episode. We also see Maeve get snatched up by Black Noir later on as well, since Homelander has found out that they're all conspiring against him. Homelander has been spiraling each and every episode, and now that he has even more power now, it's gonna get worse, I feel. We saw how horrible it was at the end of last episode, how he brutalized Supersonic. Speaking of spiraling, Soldier Boy is just on the loose. He's walking around the world, giving us a little bit of taste of that whole fish out of water element, but not in the most positive light, as he once again has another PTSD moment and goes supernova and just blows out an entire side of a building, killing a whole bunch of people. Pretty terrifying stuff when we see the wreckage and just the side of the building all blown out, and the fact that he's not there, so it's kind of a search to try and find Soldier Boy the rest of the episode, whether it be the Soups or the boys. Out of everyone, the person who wants to find him most is because we have continuously seen all of the pieces being put together of his past trauma involving Soldier Boy with all of these different flashback sequences. I think it's really well done. It is really intriguing to just see what exactly happened in the past involving MM and his family. Well, this guy that Butcher and MM goes to after the fact to talk about Soldier Boy, he doesn't have a lot of scenes. He's known as the Legend. He is kind of a scene stealer though. He's like this fun mafioso type guy, and he was holding on to Soldier Boy's stuff. He's just a fun character. He just has a great personality to him. We do get some big developments here between that beef between A-Train and Blue Hawk. It's not one of my favorite storylines that's progressing throughout the episodes. He wants an apology from Blue Hawk for over-patrolling the black neighborhoods, and the story pretty much goes exactly the way that you would expect it to, escalating to the point where Blue Hawk starts getting confrontational and throwing people around, but the big devastating part of that is one of the people that took the brunt of it was A-Train's brother, and it looked like he's severely injured. Hopefully he's not dead, but at least severely injured in the process. This entire end portion of the episode I think is the best portion of the entire episode, starting off with this really funny segment here with Crimson Countess on this campsite, and the person on the other line that she's speaking to is a cameo from Seth Rogen as he's jerking off on camera. It's one of those things that I'm always reminded of, that Seth Rogen is an executive producer on The Boys and Invincible, so it's pretty amusing to me that he probably is the one who had this idea for this cameo. I don't know personally, but it's a pretty fun scene. Poor guy has his session ruined when the boys tackle Crimson Countess, tying her down and kind of using her as leverage to try and form an alliance with Soldier Boy because he's on the way. In this entire end portion, we also continue to see more divides between Hughie and Annie, due to the fact that we do see Hughie continuously want to use superpowers, and he doesn't want to be the damsel in distress type because Annie is the one that's always saving him, and Annie just wants Hughie to be Hughie. It's just a big bummer having all these different divides in the team between Annie and Hughie, and then MM is double-crossed by Butcher because Butcher puts him to sleep, drugs him so he won't have to deal with Soldier Boy when Soldier Boy ever inevitably does arrive. Inevitably, Soldier Boy does arrive to go speak to Crimson Countess. I forgot to mention previously that the legend gave her address to Soldier Boy to go see her. The conversation, not really that pleasant because Soldier Boy is very mad at all the members of Payback, her included. And just like that, Soldier Boy powers up and boom! The house is exploded and there goes Crimson Countess. Kind of a disappointing, underwhelming character, you know. I thought there was going to be much more interesting dialogue, much more interesting stuff here with Crimson Countess because Laurie Holden's great, but she never really gets to do all that much, so I think that's a very disappointing character all around for Season 3. And once again, with these episodes of The Boys, they kind of end on a somber note because we do see the divides in the teams. We see Soldier Boy, Hughie, and Butcher deciding to go off and leaving Annie and MM there, so we're seeing more divides in the teams. We're already not seeing much of Frenchie or Kimiko because Kimiko doesn't have powers, Frenchie just got kidnapped, but now we're seeing all of this other divides in the team as well, Annie and MM. I don't know. It seems kind of weird to have so many different divides in the teams causing all this friction and developments, because I love the team dynamic so much, but when you have so many subsets of teams, things can get a little bit messy down the road. Overall, not one of my favorite episodes. There were some fun highlight moments that I've already mentioned previously, but make sure you share your thoughts down below. What do you think of the 5th episode of The Boys? Did you like the episode? Not like the episode? How are we feeling so far about Soldier Boy, Crimson Countess, and all the other developing stories in the season so far? Because we have a lot of different stories. Either way, thank you guys so much for checking out the reviews. I really do appreciate that. Be sure to like on the video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you're always up to date with my reviews, reactions, all that stuff on the channel. But until the next time, I'll see you guys later.